Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me in my studies today. 20 weeks ago, I began to externalize my studies of a book a week by sharing vocal readings of the passages that are most prominent to me. I am currently reading Alan Watts' Cloud Hidden, Whereabouts Unknown, a Mountain Journal, and today is my fourth day sharing readings from this book. The focus topics for today's readings that stand out most to me are love, the detrimental impact of the illusion of self on ecological awareness, and Jesus.
Page 81. We ourselves did not get born on purpose. We do not plan our breath nor calculate the circuitry of our brains. Yet it is amazing how little we seem to realize that we would be incapable of purpose without these marvels of purposeless and involuntary construction. We are simply not used to the idea that there are forms of intelligence which do not use the linear, time-bound methods of conscious attention and scanning. Just as we do not confuse a televised image of the president with the president himself, we should not confuse our linear models of the world in terms of words, numbers, or other strung-out signs with the world itself. This is page 86. Alan Watts is referring to individuals who display the power of universal love. One of the peculiar things we notice about people who have this astonishing universal love is that they are often apt to play it rather cool on sexual love. The reason is that for them, an erotic relationship with the external world operates between that world and every single nerve ending. Their whole organism, physical, psychological, and spiritual, is an erogenous zone. Their flow of love is not channeled as exclusively in the genital system as is most other people's. This is especially true in a culture such as ours, where for so many centuries, that particular expression of love has been so marvelously repressed as to make it seem the most desirable. We have, as a result of 2,000 years of repression, sex on the brain. It's not always the right place for it. You cannot by any means teach a selfish person to be unselfish. Whatever a selfish person does, whether it be giving his body to be burned or giving all that he possesses to the poor, he will still do it in a selfish way of feeling, and with extreme cunning, marvelous self-deception, and deception of others. But the consequences of fake love are almost invariably destructive because they build up resentment on the part of the person who does the fake loving, as well as on the part of those who are its recipients. But love is not a sort of rare commodity. Everybody has it. Existence is love. Everybody has the force running. Page 93. One's self in the ordinary sense of one's ego doesn't exist. It seems to exist in a way, in the sense that the equator exists as an abstraction. The ego is not a psychological or physical organ. It's a social convention, like the equator, like the clock or the calendar, or like the dollar bill. These social conventions are abstractions which we agree to treat as if they did exist. In tying up love in knots or in becoming incapable of it, you can't destroy this energy. When you won't love or won't let it out, it emerges anyway in the form of self-destruction. The alternative to self-love, in other words, is self-destruction. Because you won't take the risk of loving yourself properly, you will be compelled instead to destroy yourself. Page 105. The Western attitude of being alive by virtue of being against death and darkness is not only naive, but also destructive and violent. Its major technological achievement is the equipment for destroying the planet. It knows nothing of judo, the gentle way of getting where you want to go by going along with the movements of nature, using, say, gravity as a sailor uses the wind. 113. I feel that we would go better with this wiggly world if we thought in terms of roots and branches, vines and creepers, fronds and fiber, rather than in sterile angularities of metal and quartz, in which the genius of life has not yet arisen, and in which energy may stutter and hum, but has not yet learned to feel. At least then, let me hope, dear children, that there are seeds in your dirty fingernails, and that you will again come out with flowers. Page 118. We confuse our systems of symbols and descriptions with the real or natural world, the universe represented with the universe present, the money with the wealth, the figures with the facts, the thoughts with the things, the ideas with the events, the ego with the organism, and the map with the territory. It is actually impossible to explain this verbally because in writing or talking, one is still in the dimension of symbols. Even though using physical noises and marks on paper, and the very notion that such energy forms are physical, material, and real is in turn merely a philosophical concept, which is, again, a symbol. Thus, the word water is itself undrinkable, and the formula H2O will not float a ship. Page 121. The organism, the whole pattern of nerve and muscle, is more complex and intelligent than logical systems of arithmetic, geometry, and grammar, which are in fact nothing but inferior ritual. Life itself dances. For what else are trees, ferns, butterflies, and snakes but elaborate forms of dancing? Even wood and bones show in their structure the characteristic patterns of flowing water. The trouble with our rich and powerful people is not so much that they are wicked, but that they do not enjoy themselves. A square can't have a ball, and the great problem of philosophy is not so much to square the circle as circle the square. Page 126. Real religion has nothing to do with words. It is a silent, effortless, and fascinated concentration on the basic energy, the fundamental and musical vibration of the world, which, as St. Thomas Aquinas might have said, is what all men call God. You do religion as you breathe easily, slowly, and delightedly, or listen intently to a bird singing at dawn, or ride a surfboard on the exact dynamic center of an immense wave. In the end, you find out that you yourself are nothing other than that basic and timeless energy. Page 137. We have taught ourselves to pursue such abstract and weakly perceived goals as happiness, love, goodness, service to others, fun, fame, fortune, power, peace, or God. But we have more words than experience for what we mean. Earth is in heaven. It spins, falls, and floats in a spiral nebula. Earth is not opposed to heaven. It belongs in it as a member of the whole company of the stars. We civilized human beings are psychically and sensually myopic. We concentrate on trivial details. We ignore the constant and eternal and are therefore ignorant of our real identity as members, functions, expressions, and manifestations of everything that is to be seen in the sky and much more. We hide ourselves in architectural boxes, fix our attention on scraps of paper. How many of us now realize that space is the same thing as mind or consciousness? That when you look out into infinity, you are looking at yourself. That your inside goes with your entire outside as your front with your back. That this galaxy and all other galaxies are just as much you as your heart or your brain. That your coming and going, your waking and sleeping, your birth and your death are exactly the same kind of rhythmic phenomena as the stars and their surrounding darkness. To be afraid of life is to be afraid of yourself. Our deepest spiritual, religious, and psychological problems are extremely simple. Just go out and look at the sky. Get to know where you are. Heaven is there for all to see. Before I read the following passages, I want to preview to share that the language can be jarring. It was for me the first time I read it and heard it. And I think that it is incredibly important. So there's no way that I would leave it out. I think that Ellen Watts was intending to be jarring in order to evoke an alertness in response to what he's saying here. So without further ado, I'll begin to read. I'm on page 147. Jesus has been eclipsed and perverted by pedestalization, by kicking him upstairs so as to get him out of the way, and by following a religion about Jesus instead of the religion of Jesus. Obviously, Jesus was not the man he was as a result of making Jesus Christ his personal savior. The religion of Jesus was that he knew he was a son of God, and the phrase son of means of the nature of, so that a son of God is an individual who realizes that he is and always has been one with God. I and the Father are one. It is obvious to any informed student of the history and psychology of religion that Jesus was one of many who had an intense experience of cosmic consciousness, of the vivid realization that oneself is a manifestation of the eternal energy of the universe, the basic I am. But Jesus had to speak through a public address system, the only one available, which distorted his words, so that they came forth as the bombastic claim to be the one and only appearance of the Christ, of the incarnation of God as man. This is not good news. The good news is that if Jesus could realize his identity with God, you can also. But this God does not have to be idolized as an imperious monarch with a royal court of angels and ministers. God, as the love which moves the sun and other stars, is something much more inward, intimate, and mysterious, in the sense of being too close to be seen as an object. Christianity would seem ever so much more valid if it would stop insisting on being an oddity. Christianity has universality, or Catholicity, only in recognizing that Jesus is one particular instance and expression of a wisdom which was also, if differently, realized in the Buddha, in Lao Tzu, and in such modern avatars as Ramana Maharshi, Ramakrishna, and perhaps Aurobindo and Inayat Khan. I could make a very long list. This wisdom is that none of us are brief island existences, but forms and expressions of one and the same eternal I am, waving in different waves, such that whenever this is realized to be the case, we wave more harmoniously with other waves.